Crazy mental illnesses. Alien hand syndrome. This is when someone experiences their limbs acting entirely on their own without conscious effort. For example, you zip up your coat, your other hand undoes it. You put something on the counter, your other hand will knock it off. This condition occurs mostly in people who have had the two hemispheres of their brain surgically separated, a procedure sometimes used to relieve the symptoms of epilepsy in extreme cases. So quite literally, the two halves of their body are neurologically separate. Dissociative fugue. This is when someone has traveling amnesia. They'll forget who they are and wander sometimes even across multiple states until all of a sudden they snap out of it and return to their old self in the middle of a random side quest. Stendhal syndrome. This is characterized by being anxious after being exposed to a large amount of artwork. In extreme cases, people may faint, get tachycardia, have hallucinations, or even have a heart attack, and they overall have an unexplainable sickening feeling with art. Psychosis. This is when someone has a psychotic break resulting in difficulties determining what is real and what is not real. It often occurs due to other psychiatric disorders such as schizophrenia. They'll have delusions or false beliefs and hallucinations or false perceptions. They may talk to themselves, pace in circles, be highly agitated, or sometimes catatonic with a blank stare in their face. Intermittent explosive disorder. This is a behavioral disorder characterized by explosive outbursts of anger that are disproportionate to the situation at hand. For example, someone with this disorder may stub their toe, triggering a bout of rage so bad that they destroy their whole kitchen. They'll usually shout and yell, break things, and sometimes even harm themselves or other people. Fatal familial insomnia. Rather than a mental illness, this is a rare neurodegenerative disease caused by a prion that leads to one's inability to fall asleep and stay asleep. It may start out mild, but eventually gets so severe that your mental state of mind will quickly decline, leading to speech problems, dementia, and eventually death within a few months or years. This disease is caused by genetic mutation and typically runs in families. Delusional parasitosis. This is when individuals have the persistent belief that they're infested with parasites, insects, or bugs. They'll sometimes even hallucinate the sensation of bugs crawling on their skin. They'll seek out medical treatment sometimes, and despite doctors confirming that they don't have parasites, they just can't shake the delusion. Folie à deux, or shared delusional disorder. This is when symptoms of a delusional belief are transmitted from one person to another. For example, if someone is incredibly paranoid that the government is spying on them, they may be able to convince their wife that they're telling the truth and need to move across the country, thus transmitting this delusional belief from one person to another. Cotard syndrome. This is when someone holds the delusional belief that they are dead, do not exist, or have lost their blood and organs. Others may believe that they're immortal. An underlying theme with this condition is that people tend to be very nihilistic, where they believe that life is meaningless. Orthorexia nervosa. This is an eating disorder where someone is excessively worried with eating healthy foods only. So much so that it may paradoxically lead to unhealthy consequences, such as social isolation, anxiety, and a reduced interest in activities they once loved. Prosopagnosia. People with this disorder are unable to recognize familiar faces, including their own. This in turn can impair social development and cause other mental health issues that stem from this condition. Olfactory reference syndrome. This is when you mistakenly believe that you smell bad even though you don't. As a result, people with ORS will take frequent showers to try to camouflage this perceived odor even though it's not actually there. Fregoli syndrome. This is when a person holds the belief that two people are in fact the same person who changes their appearance or is in disguise. People with this condition are often very paranoid and believe that the person who is in disguise is out to get them. Abulomania. Have you ever been torn over making a really tough decision? This is how people with abulomania feel, but for making any decision. For example, they may be so indecisive about choosing what they want to eat for dinner that they never make up their mind and end up eating nothing. They're so overwhelmed about making the wrong decision that they become paralyzed by overanalysis. Trichotillomania. This is when someone has the irresistible urge to pull out their hair, typically from the scalp, eyebrows, or eyelashes. It's similar to nail biting in that it's a repetitive habit that happens out of impulse. People who suffer from this may become very self-conscious and avoid social situations because of it. Pica. Have you ever had a craving for ice cream? Well, imagine that, but for crayons or dirt or any other inedible material. This is what people with pica suffer from. It's a condition where you have cravings for things that aren't food and have zero nutritional value. So next time you see your neighbor eating his shoelaces, cut him some slack. Trichophagia. This is basically if pica and trichotillomania had a baby. People with this condition eat hair. Sometimes they'll develop a hairball that blocks their gastrointestinal system, but despite that, they still can't resist the impulse to eat hair. Body integrity dysphoria. This is characterized by a desire to have a physical disability or feeling discomfort with being able-bodied. This feeling is so strong that some have even resorted to self-amputation, or they'll damage a limb so badly that surgeons are forced to remove it. And an element that makes this even stranger is that people with this condition begin to wish for amputation around the ages of 8 and 12. Somatoparaphrenia. This is very similar to body integrity dysphoria in that it involves the delusion where someone denies ownership of a limb or even an entire side of their body. Even when provided with undeniable proof that this limb belongs to them and is nobody else's, they come up with these elaborate explanations about whose it actually is and how it ended up on their body. They may become so involved with these delusions that they treat an arm or a leg as an entirely different being. If you hated this video and made it this far, you probably have one of these conditions, and you should get that checked out. On a real note, if you're someone who suffers from any of these conditions, then I hope you found some humor in this video. Oh, and I almost forgot. Best video selection in the comments? I'll do it. I'll make it. So put your greatest ideas down there, and maybe it'll be a video one day. Anyway, thanks for watching.